Welcome to the 99, where we are focused on brewing a better competitive commander. I'm your host, Patrick Marlett.
I'm Alex Cohen.
And guess what? Today we're talking about the Includes and Excludes from Zur the Enchanter. And now, these aren't necessarily must includes or must excludes. The list is so tight that it's all really down to player preference.
Yes, this is personal play style and just meta dependency, honestly.
Yeah. So if you look at the list that's in the description down below, of course you'll be able to see all the card choices we've made. And if you want to follow along, I'll encourage you to visit that tapped out page. But also while you're down there, Twitter, Instagram, Discord, if you want to talk with us about the decks that we feature on the show or any upcoming releases. There's been a lot of new releases as of late, and even cards that are going to be going into this, as a matter of fact. You can do so by following us over on Discord. So to start us off again, I think it's probably important if you didn't watch our part 1 video to watch that first, but if you don't want to watch that and learn how the deck operates, we're just going to read off Zur for you so you know what Zur does.
So Zur is a 1 colorless, 1 white, 1 blue, and 1 black Esper, legendary creature, human wizard, and he's a 1/4 with flying, and whenever Zur the Enchanter attacks, you may search your library for an enchantment card with converted mana cost 3 or less and put it into play. If you do, shuffle your library.
Nice. And again, I'll definitely highly encourage you to watch the part 1 video so you can see what that effect really has on the board state. But we're going to start with what we consider the must includes for at least this particular list. And then, of course, we'll talk about what they opted out. But we have all of those off to the side. And there's actually only 6 for this list.
Yeah, the list is... This is personal preference. This list is very tight, and it depends on what interaction you want to be running, what emphasis you want to feel you put on storm turns, what you consider dead, and just ultimately meta dependency. So let's start with Ancient Excavation, which says it's an instant speed for 2 colorless, 1 blue, and 1 black. Draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand, then discard a card for each card drawn this way. And it has basic land cycling. For 2 colorless, you can discard this card, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library.
And this is actually really functional for the list on 2 different fronts.
Yes.
Sometimes you need the color fixing. So the
Not only that, sometimes you need to get around non-basic land hate.
Yeah, exactly. So honestly, basic land cycling is a really good function to have on a card that actually works very well in and of itself.
So I find that this card is a useful include for both of those functions, especially because if you don't get scroll wreck, this is a great way to dig deeper into your deck on storm turn. So it's really a nice redundancy ability that way that also can double in a pinch as a color fixing or fighting land aid.
Do you find that this is too expensive for your list ever? Or
sometimes we're still that's what I said. This is a personal preference. So again, the stock list is different, and I would certainly recommend checking that one out as well.
What would you say the threshold is for Ancient Excavation? Because you're not going to just cast it if you have 5 cards. You're generally looking to have.
You're generally looking to do it on your storm turn.
Okay.
Ad Naus or Necropotence.
Right. So your pile. You roughly have like 20 plus.
Yeah, and then you would use it. And then usually if that's not the case, you would just do basic land cycling.
But this essentially opted out for a different card, and I guess we can talk about that one now.
I'd say Frantic Search, and the reason being is that Frantic Search has, while free loot is good, it hasn't done as much lately without the Doomsday package. So I think that having an alternative over Frantic Search is good.
Yeah, it's interesting because Frantic Search doesn't do quite as much when you're storming off as Ancient Excavation. And mind you, even if Excavation is 4 mana, you've generally amassed a lot of mana, if not infinite mana by that point, to where the mana cost is sort of irrelevant.
Right, exactly. So that's more what I felt with Ancient Excavation.
Plus, honestly, that basic land cycling is a huge aid too.
Especially in our meta where there's a lot of stacks and a lot of non-basic hate. So the decks that I played, the partner decks that have just been shut down by that hate, Ancient Excavation helps make Zur more resilient.
Yeah, so not necessarily an exclude with Frantic Search. It's certainly good in a lot of lists, and you'll likely see it in others or the Enchanter list. But for us, I think Ancient Excavation is definitely better on those storm turns, I'm going to say, and what we've opted out for the Ancient Excavation.
Right.
All right, you know what? You love it. It's Counterspell.
Yeah. So, given the meta that I play in with Patrick, there's a lot less spell storming and storm decks and a lot more creatures and fringe strategies, which generally means I want a hard answer to something that might not be a non-creature spell. In some cases, it would be a Magus of the Moon, stuff like that. And so I want a hard counter. And I've opted out Spell Pierce.
This is an interesting one because a lot of storm decks, I mean, you're casting a lot of spells that can be stifled, not by the spell stifle, but by other countermeasures from other opponents. And Spell Pierce is really good for deterring those threats.
Exactly. So if I were to, let's say, go play into a blind meta, I probably would include Spell Pierce.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah, Spell Pierce or Force of Negation. I just don't have Force of Negation. It's on its way in the mail. So Spell Pierce or Force of Negation, I probably would include.
Okay. If you don't know, guys, Spell Pierce is 1 blue, instant speed, counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 2. And again, this is why a lot of my lists actually revolve around using creatures heavily to take advantage of the board state.
That's again why I choose Counterspell. These spells are certainly worth it in today's meta. But
just the flexibility of Counterspell in general. I mean, it's one of the best countered Magic cards in the game.
Yes.
And it even has counter spell
Precisely.
in its name. So it's easily included for this list. Again, you can sort of alternate these two.
Yeah, as I said, this is meta preference.
So these are somewhat must-includes for your list, and let's talk through them. So we have Sunken Ruins and Emergent Zone, and I'll just read them off for you guys really quick. Emergent Zone is a new one. A really amazing card for this list, in my opinion. You can tap it at generic mana, or you can activate it with 1 generic, tapping it, and sacrificing Emergent Zone. So you're only going to get to do this once, but you may cast spells this turn, as though they had flash. So that's anything in your hand.
Exactly.
So it's like Vidalcan Orrery for the one time. And then Sunken Ruins is a filter land.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, it's the filter for blue-black.
Exactly. So I think that the deck now, I think Emergent Zone, we do have ways of producing colored mana with rocks, and Emergent Zone, to me at least at this point, is extremely helpful on certain storm turns if you have it out. The ceiling on it is very high, and I feel the downside of it, we can mitigate it.
Yeah, I mean, my only fault with Emergent Zone it really depends on what you're trying to do. Right? Like, because there are cards like Winding Canyon that have been lands that have cheated out cards with the effect of flash. But those have been very specific, like Winding Canyon's creatures only. This is anything. The only fault here is that you have to sacrifice it, and if you do get neutered on that same turn, you're down 1 land after the fact. But on a storm turn, you'll hopefully have
enough protection, and you'll be able to pump out enough mana with stuff like Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual.
But this is amazing, because if you watched our Part 1 video, you'll notice that we wanted to play our Yawgmoth's Will, but we used our Quicken on a Demonic Tutor.
And this is
Quicken
exactly on everything, and you wouldn't even need Shimmermer.
No.
At that point.
No.
So that's why I said the ceiling on it is incredibly high.
Yeah, so honestly, and it's difficult to say use a utility land in a 3-color deck that produces generic mana. Have you ever found this hurt you?
Once or twice I kind of thought, I would like to have the color land, but then the times when it has gone off, it's just been a dream.
I mean, that's what this list does, though. I mean, you want to go off at instant speed on your end step.
As I said, it's really just about personal playstyle preference.
Yeah.
And the reason I include Sunken Ruins is because I like the ability with the new Jace. We want ways to produce more blue mana and as much blue mana as possible.
Yeah, and if that's going to be an operationally functional win for you...
Exactly. So I find Sunken Ruins is very useful.
Yeah, and people complain about that with the new Jace, the triple blue. If you don't know, the new Jace wielder is 1 generic and 3 blue. I think for sure this is excellent for this list, because being able to filter the double blue is insanely good for getting that.
I completely agree.
Yeah, no, I think this was a good choice.
Yeah.
But in case you're wondering, we opted these 2 lands in for
Godless Shrine and Gemstone Mine.
So yeah, these are interesting ones. Gemstone Mine, it's interesting because it's actually going up in value. I think people are starting to evaluate it more highly now. I've always loved the card, but in case you don't know what it is, it's a land that comes into play with 3 mining counters, and you remove the mining counters and tapping it for an activation to get 1 mana of any color. And then if there's no gemstone counters on it, or mining counters rather, it gets sacrificed.
Yes.
Really amazing for color fixing.
Yes.
And then we have Godless Shrine. So this enters play, and then you have to pay 2 life. If you don't, it's basically what do they call it? A shock land for your plains and swamp.
Yes, black and white shock land. So the point being that Gemstone Mine, it's very useful for color fixing. The depletion counters That can be an issue occasionally, but for me, Emergent Zone, we have enough ways of producing colored mana in this deck. We have a lot of ways.
Between your rocks,
But our
between your
fetch
land
lands,
base,
yes.
your fetch lands.
And then you even have stuff like Ancient Excavation doubling for that. And so I think that these two, I think Gemstone Mine was...
The weakest one to cut.
Yeah, it was hard, I'm not going to lie, but it was the weakest one to cut. Now, Godless Shrine, the black and white entering tap, paying 2 life,
That's
it never felt as useful these days anymore, especially because we had stuff like Tundra, Scrubland, we have our rocks, we're going to have, I have Orzhov Signet, but I'm going to put in the new Talisman of Hierarchy over it. So I think that in general, this was not as useful as it once was.
Yeah, and the Shocklands are tricky because...
Yeah, we need our life. And so...
Is life as a resource in this deck? It's... How many Shocklands do you run now?
Just 2.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I think cutting the 1 is probably good for you, particularly for the filter.
Yes.
And Gemstone Mine, although I'd say that's tricky, but I'd say this is even the stronger of these two.
Mm-hmm.
This is definitely lesser in effect than Emergent Zone.
Yes.
Because Emergent Zone can win you games, where Gemstone Mine, it's only good short term.
Yes.
But even in the long haul, you will use that mana and you'll be down a land after the fact.
Absolutely.
So I really do like these inclusions over these 2 lands. Emergent Zone in particular, I'm excited to see more people brewing with it, and I think Zur is a list that just loves it. Yeah. The next inclusion we have is Culling the Weak, and amazing art, by the way. If you could take this in. Culling the Weak is 1 black. It's a mana source. It's old wording, but it's an instant speed card, and it gets you sacrifice a creature as an additional cost, and you add 4 black. So why Culling the Weak?
So Culling the Weak was mostly due to Storm turns. Sometimes I found I had a deficiency of mana. Now, if Zur is attacking, you can turn Zur into a Dark Ritual by sacrificing him if you need the mana. Also, given that this list runs Baral as well, my list runs Baral, this can be very useful as far as just using Dark Confidant or Baral to net some mana. And
how many creatures do you have outside of those 2 and Zur?
Well, 3 technically, because Shimmerer and those 2.
Yeah, you don't want to... You're not going to use Culling the Weak on Shimmerer.
No.
So we're down a target. However, you will always have Zur,
Zur, with the turns you would use Zur on, you will always have him out. And I feel like this was just a good thing to...
If someone's going to try to remove Zur, I'll cull him.
Yeah, I mean...
I'll go out on my own terms.
Yeah, dude, go out on your own terms and then maybe try and add Naws off of him or do something else.
That's even better, right?
Yeah,
That's absurd.
yeah,
This does convert him into a...
Yeah, and I mean,
nearly enough.
let's say someone tries to Gilded Drake Zur, we can Culling the Weak, sack him, and get the mana back.
Yeah. No, it's really good in the list, but you took out Extirpate from the list for culling.
I think that we have enough counter magic to get around the effects of Extirpate. However, if you're playing in a Hulk heavy meta, Extirpate is essential, and I think that would be good. But I'm not in a Hulk heavy meta, so this is just a meta pick.
So if you guys don't know what Extirpate is or you can't read it, it's 1 black for instant speed, split second card. All that means is when it's on the stack, nothing else can go above it. So you have to wait for it to resolve. Choose target card in a graveyard other than a basic land. Search its owner's graveyard, hand, and library for all cards of the same name as that card and remove them from the game. Then that player shuffles his or her library. So this is sort of like a Reanimator Hulk. Get rid of that.
Yes, exactly.
And like Razaketh,
yeah, Hulk. Yeah. This is definitely the one.
And for 1 mana, it's a really good way to just crush those Reanimator lists.
Exactly. So in a blind meta, I would certainly play.
You think so?
Yes.
Do most lists run Extirpate?
No, the stock list does, and I think it's a good thing to run in today's Hulk heavy meta.
Yeah, particularly with the unbanning, with all the resurgence of Hulk decks, like it makes sense. I think for this deck, though, what applies more directly to this deck strength is certainly Culling the Weak.
Yes.
And I think that's a good 1-to-1 switch. And again, they're in the same mana slot, too.
Yeah,
so 1 mana
exactly.
for 1 mana. That makes sense to me.
It just depends on your playstyle.
This is a new one. A lot of folks are loving it. It's Narset's Reversal. Do you want to read this one off?
Now, Narset's Reversal is copy target instant or sorcery spell, then return it to its owner's hand. You may choose new targets for the copy.
So it's it's Reverberate, but then they don't get their spell.
Yeah.
It's just better. Whatever red had, blue's got it, and it's better.
So this is very handy in our meta for copying tutors and whatnot.
Yeah.
and getting somebody else's ad nause, let's say.
Yeah, because a lot of people are going to be running it.
Yeah,
Even
and
outside
then
our-
we can
our meta.
use it as an infinite loop as well if we need to with something like Time Twister, by copying the effect, and then we can bounce. We could do a lot with this.
Okay. So there's a lot of functions for Narset's
Yeah.
reversal in the list. And it's interesting because you didn't switch it out for... I would consider Narset's reversal a counter, kind of. You
Yeah.
didn't switch it out for a counter, you switched it out for...
Merchant Scroll.
Yeah, so again, the CMC is the same, so they're both on the same curved length. One's instant speed, one's sorcery. And Merchant Scroll, if you don't know, is one generic, one blue.
Search your library for a blue instant card, reveal that card, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library.
You can find Narset's reversal with this.
Right, but the thing with this is it's usually 2 mana, and I was casting it on my turn at sorcery speed, and a lot of the time what I was getting, it almost felt like it was delaying me. A turn where is this? Again, this is just personal playstyle preference.
But you get their value, and
Yes.
they don't.
Exactly.
It does, again...
So
well,
this can
there's your
copy a
filter land
tutor,
for
let's
this.
yeah, or this can copy demonic tutor, let's say. So that's a better tutor, you know?
Yeah.
Just my thoughts.
No, I think that this is a far better switch. Because Narset's reversal does so much more for your list. And even outside of your color, like green and red, whatever effects they're using, you can steal those 2 of their instant or sorcery speed. This is really fantastic in this, where this is limited in its scope, because it only finds blue instants, by the way. Like, it's not really fetching you much else beyond that. And generally speaking, what is Merchant Scroll going to try to find you?
Probably Force of Will or something like that. And
It's just countermeasures?
Yeah, it's just countermeasures. So, and there were times I found Mystical Tutor, which just defeated the purpose of it. So,
Tutor for a tutor.
yeah,
And you're sort of forced into that situation. I feel like Narset's reversal is certainly better, because why put a tutor in for a countermeasure when you can just have a better countermeasure?
Yeah.
I really like this addition to the list.
Okay.
I think it's definitely good for this list. So it's interesting, guys. You'll notice we're laying out a couple cards right now that are really must-includes for this list to accelerate on the level it does.
Stuff like Force of
You know,
Will.
this is definitely a tier 1 list, and it's due to cards like this, and it stinks that there is a price gate for a lot of players. So what I really wanted to talk about with these cards out is that if you're going to build any blue list, the things you will definitely need to incorporate are cards like Mana Drain and Force of Will. However long it takes you to save up to get those, you should definitely consider them in your list, because if you at least have 1 copy, you'll be able to put it into any of your list. You don't have to get all these tricked out ones. You know, Alex has been building this deck for a long time. These didn't just come to his list.
No, they did not.
No, like, it took a while to buy the Scrubland.
Yeah.
It took a while to get all the cards, but we have versions of these cards in this list because they are crucial to a more efficient game. And, you know, obviously all these Masterpiece rocks, you do need the rocks, and the rocks are expensive, but I'm going to encourage you guys, if your kitchen table doesn't mind you playing with proxies, play with proxies.
I completely agree.
You were saying it earlier, yeah.
Great games of Magic should be decided by great plays, not big wallets.
And that's so true. Like, I don't
Proxy
think people...
Tabernacle, Proxy Time Twister. I don't care. I'd prefer to have a great game than I would to have someone sit down and be an elitist about having the real cards.
Yeah, or that, or just be defeated that they can't afford them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'd prefer that.
I feel like you're shut out of a board.
Exactly, and I've always said that I'd prefer someone play with proxies and play a great game.
Yeah. So, guys, you know, obviously, these are really must-includes in my opinion. And I try to own a copy of every card I have. The only thing I don't have right now is Chains of Mephistopheles. But my thing is, if I own 1 copy of Mana Crypt, I'll go ahead and make proxies for my other list so I can hand them off to other people, or we can just have a nice kitchen table night where we have full decks with power. So, again, I'm just going to encourage it here. Proxy the cards if you can't afford them, and work towards them if you can. If you want to take it to a tournament, certainly don't lie about your cards being real, but do work towards these cards. The tutors are really essential for any deck, and the counters are essential.
So are the positive mana rocks.
Yeah, at least for Zerg.
Mana Crypt and Soul Ring, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
Soul Ring's cheap, at least.
Yeah.
You don't need. Well, we don't have Soul Ring out here, but you also have the Masterpiece Soul Ring.
Yeah, which is not cheap.
Yeah, but on that note, guys, those are really all of the inclusions and exclusions. There weren't that many that varied from
No,
the stock
it's
list
a very small vary from Suasion's list. Suasion's list, I think in some ways is better into a blind meta. It really depends on your play style, but I'd like to... Suasion is Bolshevictory's new name, for anybody who doesn't know, who was the original designer of the Shimmerzer list, and then we all collaborated on the Discord to create the
More
Tainted
refined,
Shimmer
yeah.
list and put in some sideboard pieces and stuff.
Yeah, this is definitely a stronger list now due to those alternative wins. I love the Jace line strategy, again, with the Demonic Consultation
Yeah.
and the Tainted Pact. There's more to this list than meets the eye, but Zur is the one manning the helm, and Necropotence makes this deck what it is. And it's such a fun list. Again, I mentioned in the part 1 video, it's such a fun list to play against, particularly Alex's list. And I think with all of that in mind, you should go out and start brewing this. You know, there's obviously other deck strategies for Zur, but this is one to work towards.
This is, I think, the strongest one currently. The Tainted Shimmer list definitely are the strongest Zur builds out there right now, and I just say that because decks these days need to compete with Flash Hulk, with Paradox Scepter Thrasios, with the new Urza, Food Chain Sliver, decks that are very streamlined with a very
Food Chain's
efficient...
already been good, and
Yeah,
now with the
sliver.
first sliver, it's stupid.
Yeah, and so this Zur list is very strong, and I think it definitely measures up to those. It's certainly, you know, this is a tier 1 list for sure. And
for Zur,
yeah, the Tainted Shimmer builds that were worked on for certainly are an improvement over the old ones. So
yeah, so if you're looking to upgrade your old list, or you have a Doomsday list and you want to try something new with your Zur, definitely the route to go. But on that note, guys, thank you for joining us for part 2. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it cleared up any questions for you. Again, if you do have any questions for us, we're both on the Discord.
this is true.
And he's our resident Zur man. So Alex Degrade on Discord. Yeah.
It was the name of my Diablo 3 character, to be fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rock on, dude.
that was a while ago, but people like the name, so it stuck.
Gotcha. So if you do want to ask any questions about Zur, or if there are any new releases coming out that you think would be good in Zur, we can always talk about it over on the Discord and, of course, Instagram and Twitter as well. But thank you for joining us again, guys. My name is Patrick Marlett.
I'm Alex Cohen.
Happy brewing, babies.